Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Geek podcast, where we celebrate geek, nerd, and pop culture. Each week, we deliver the best analysis for fans, by fans, on anything related to movies, TV, video games, comics, anime, and manga. We talk geek. And now, here's the Get Geek podcast.
What is up, y'all? Welcome to the Get Geek podcast. Hello, everyone. I am Jose.
This is AJ.
Eli.
And this is the 10th Jedi, Walt.
Welcome to another episode. Y'all have a good idea of what we're talking about. Walt also gives us a little hint as to what the week's episode is going to be in his introduction. And we are talking Star Wars Visions. And we are talking Bad Batch, The Bad Batch, Star Wars, The Bad Batch, which is something else that we saw recently. Before we get to the podcast, though, before we get to everything, we are going to do our quick little rundown. The best way to support your favorite podcast crew is to like, rate, share, subscribe, comment, and definitely give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That's the best way to support your favorite crew. Check us out on all your favorite social media platforms at Get Geek Podcast. Leave us a comment. Slide into our DMs. Let us know what you think of our episodes. Let us know if you have ideas for future episodes. And we really, really would love to hear from y'all. So, this week we are talking about sort of Bad Batch versus Visions, or as our co-host, who unfortunately could not join us this week, but we will be listening to his thoughts. We're going to be inserting his thoughts into the middle of the episode. Wolfie said it's the Bad Batch versus the Good Batch. And I guess that gives you kind of a spoiler as to how he feels about that. But yeah, we're gonna have a conversation about what we think about the Bad Batch in comparison to Star Wars Visions, which is, of course, the anime series that came out on Disney Plus recently, compared to the Bad Batch, of course, came out on Disney Plus a few months ago and finished up a little while ago. Before we get to that, though, we do want to do a quick little conversation. We tried the Halo Infinite beta yesterday. It's beta weekend. If you have the Xbox Insider app, and if you use that to get access to the Halo Infinite event and then Insider app, you can get access to the beta this weekend. It is the second and the third right now, right? Today is Sunday, October 3rd when we're recording. So it's you have access to multiplayer online from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time, and I think it was 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific time. For the rest of the time, you have access to playing against bots, which we did a little bit of yesterday, and I played online a little bit last night. So I want to hear impressions from Eli first. What did you think of the Halo Infinite beta? I know you were having fun going ham on it for a little bit yesterday, I think. At least I think you were. What did you think?
Yeah, I was. Okay. I Halo Infinite is a good game, but I feel like it's obviously in its beta stages. It needs its improvement, and it definitely shows there. I mean, for God's sakes, should I even mention it? The glitch, the fusion. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, there is so many. There are so many glitches. Like, one of the glitches that we came across like three times, like in one map, was like
Yeah.
people were like fusing together. I remember
Bots.
you got
Bots.
bots. You some like four people got the jump on you when they were fused into one person.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, like, you see one person just jumping around with the gun, right? All of a sudden, the person lands on the ground and just four people just explode out of that one person. And it's like, what the hell is going on?
It's like Doctor Strange fighting Thanos.
Yeah, I know, it's so weird. It's jeez. But I mean, for the most part, like, if I could put that aside, the rest of the game is, I mean, there's a level of enjoyment there. It's just that, like I said, um it obviously needs more improvement, and I'm gonna need to see things nerfed and buffed more. One of the main things being the assault rifle,
What do you
which
think
is
it needs to
just
be buffed?
yeah, it's garbage now.
Hmm.
And I happen to agree with AJ when he said that yeah, it's just there's a lot of things going wrong with Halo Infinite right now.
What was the thing that you wanted to see nerfed?
Um,
Is there anything specific that you saw, or like a new
I think
weapon?
I think the thing that should be nerfed is probably the I think it was not the carbine, the red gun, the freaking
Oh,
oh
the
my
one that was
god, I don't
firing the
even.
red energy bolts or something
Yeah,
like that.
you know what I'm talking about,
It
the
was
one
kind
with
of
the
like a
fire.
snipe, right?
Yeah, I felt that that needs to be nerfed because it
Hmm.
created like an area effect where you could lose your half. I mean, it's fine, but like it's also a freaking
Yes.
rocket launcher. So you put both those together, it's kind of okay. But yeah,
Okay.
it's okay.
All right.
AJ,
Yeah, yeah,
This
AJ.
is the essence of Halo, dealing with very annoying weapons.
garbage
This
weapons.
is
Annoying
how it
weapons. Oh
is.
well, y'all
The
were having
Needler,
that
for one.
conversation about.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, the Needler.
Uh,
Well, the Needler was nerfed, right?
Yes.
yes.
How was that nerfed? That felt like it wasn't buffed, but it felt like sort of the same because
It was nerfed.
the
The
tracking
tracking
was
is
so
not
much
there.
better.
No, it was not.
But the it was like Yondu's freaking what's the thing, the spike thingy.
I
It
think.
would like
Far from it.
no, it was flying
No.
around. Was it not? Was it not?
I think the tracking was
Yeah.
better at close range and much worse at long range. That's kind of
Okay,
how I felt.
at long range. Well, that's always how it's gonna be. Well,
No, but
No,
I think it
it
used to
was
be
half
much better
decent
at
at
long
long
range.
range.
that's kind of. I
But
mean,
it is. I think it is better at close range. I don't know if I'm
yo,
wrong about that.
yes, bro. Close range is so easy to get a kill. Like the tracking, it'll like curve like out of freaking nowhere, and it'll get the enemy. You cannot miss a shot with the needler in this
Yeah,
game.
as long as you're like in their proximity, you're not gonna miss. You're aiming at
Yeah,
somebody. It tracks them pretty well. What do you
yeah.
think? Same thing, AJ. Do you think it was like kind of
I don't
weird?
agree at all,
Mm,
but
okay. What do you think about
whatever.
the rest of the game, the beta so far?
I thought it was fun
Mm.
when I got to play into my sadism for a little bit.
Oh god,
You'll remember what I said, Eli. The power
it's
is
mad.
maddening.
Yeah, at that point you were just. I don't
So
even.
we were on a
Oh
more open
god.
map, and just to kind of wrap up my review, I guess, I took a ghost and I was practically unkillable for like a good 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, you were just
Because I
running
was
everybody
just
over.
ramming people, shooting, gunning them
It was
down.
like your own freaking
Oh,
teammates.
God. Oh, yes, teammates included.
It was
They
so
were bots though,
stupid.
so no real players were harmed in the making of this murder.
But what is wrong with you?
His his team was
Oh
winning.
my
You
god.
can blame Far Cry and other games like GTA for this sadism.
They were in the way.
No. No, God, that is horrible.
Did you have any thoughts, Walt, from watching? I know you didn't get to play a little bit, but that much. But
Well, it did have a distinct Halo feel to it,
oh,
so
sure, sure.
at least you had that. I know Halo 5 is one that AJ despises, and I think that one didn't feel as Halo-ish, right?
It was a complete departure.
Yeah. So the good thing is that at least Halo Infinite looks and feels like Halo.
To a degree.
Yeah. So at least they're taking that in the right direction. Um, the grappling hook is something that once I do get a chance to play with it, it's probably going to feel very alien at the very beginning
Hmm.
because that's not a mechanic that was in any previous Halo versions. And it distinctly feels very oh god, what is the name of that game? There's a game that's on the X that uses the grappling hook to great effect. Jesus Christ, I'm blanking on it completely. But there's three or four versions of them. It's the guy, the Spanish character is the lead, and
Far Cry,
he's
or not Far Cry.
no, no, no,
Just
no, no.
Cause.
There you go.
Just
Thank you
Cause.
very Just
Hey,
Cause.
yeah.
It has that distinct feeling, and I don't know how I feel about that in Halo. Just Cause uses it in very, very distinct and diverse ways. I don't think it's to that level in Halo,
I hope not.
but yeah, because well, the thing about it in Just Cause, they use it very, very well. I mean, you can grapple onto vehicles and things of that nature, and it's a very powerful mechanic in Just Cause. I just hope that it doesn't become a distraction in Halo.
It remains to be seen
Yeah.
whether it's something you can use to grapple to vehicles. I didn't try that. I don't know if AJ tried that. To
I did
grapple onto
not
vehicles.
because I was the boss on the vehicle.
Yeah, that's true. But if somebody like had a new vehicle that you wanted, you could have grappled and stolen it, maybe. But
It
I'm
kind of
curious
changes
to see if
it
that
kind
does
of
it.
it kind of changes the dynamic of it because now hijacking a vehicle becomes very, very easy, where before it was kind of like you know a badge of honor. I hijacked you while you were on that ghost.
I'm
I
gonna.
hijacked you while you're on that that warthog. It was something that you kind of celebrated. And now, if, and again, we're saying if the grappling hook makes that easy, that's kind of one less badge that you can claim on your friends, right?
We'll see how easy it is too, and if it's possible. I know you have limited grappling, so I
Mm-hmm.
wonder like how well it's gonna work. But so there's definitely. I know AJ like definitely was like it sort of feels like Halo, and the big, not huge difference, but big difference, I guess, for me that always made Halo a little weird for me is like now you actually pull left trigger to get aim down sight to get ADS, which I know AJ hates. But you have your legacy
I
mode.
don't like it for Halo,
You
but
have your
yes,
legacy mode
thank
though.
God they still have legacy mode.
They have legacy controls, which it's what clicking in the right stick to
Yes.
get your zoom on, your ADS on. But for me, like I mean, you don't have to use ADS all that often in Halo. So I like the change that you can switch to it quickly in those moments that you need to use it. The grappling hook, I think, is a fun addition, and I can see it being really, really fun, especially for the single player when you're playing in an open world. I think that's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I liked it a lot. There's definitely a lot of bugs. It crashed on me a couple of times, which that's not even indicative of what the future product is going to be like. But it made me excited to play Halo multiplayer again, and I haven't played Halo multiplayer since Halo 3. So, or well, ODST. ODST was the last time I played any kind of Halo multiplayer other than here and there. So it made me excited to play Halo again, and I have been excited for it for a while. So yeah, I had fun with it. I'm going to try it a little bit more today, probably for an hour or two. And I guess, yeah, that's how I feel about the Halo Infinite beta so far. I'm looking forward to the game, and I'm looking forward to single player. And I know, AJ, you're looking forward to Forge, which isn't coming out until next year with single player.
Come on.
Eli still hasn't availed himself of the Forge yet,
Yeah, I'm
which is
sure.
a shame.
I'm sure AJ will show him the ropes on that one.
Yeah.
It's a better Fortnite than Fortnite. You should know that, Eli.
Better Fortnite than Fortnite.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Anything is better than Fortnite. at this point.
Right.
No,
Right.
yes, it is.
All right. Well, let's get into the conversation. We ain't talking about Fortnite. We're talking about Bad Batch versus Star Wars Visions,
Right.
both on Disney Plus. Two Star Wars shows that I feel like most of us had pretty differing opinions between the two of them. Like, what did you guys feel about Bad Batch versus Visions? Anybody want to jump in and give us your initial thoughts?
Okay. Bad Batch versus Visions.
Or one or the other, but like I'm curious to see if there's a comparison that you want to make there as well.
I mean, I don't think there is any comparison. I absolutely despise Bad Batch. It's just from the beginning to the end, just some sort of complete utter. It's just a dumpster fire. It's just garbage. Every time I hear about what's her name, freaking Omega, it's Jesus, it's so horrible.
Mm.
And then you have Visions, which I also despise. Not to the extent that I despise Bad Batch, obviously, because at this point I don't even want to talk about Bad Batch anymore because it's that horrible.
Hmm.
Visions Visions was a little bit better in some stories. Obviously it's telling multiple stories, so you had some ups and downs there. It had its highlights, of
Hmm.
course, but
Thank
What
you.
was the highlight for you?
yeah, I it was only like one or two episodes. I mean, I enjoyed the Elder. I didn't
Yes.
even really like the Ninth Jedi was okay. In fact, I would much prefer watching what was it, the one with Lop or whatever, because I mean it.
Lop and Ocho.
Hmm.
Yeah, because even though it had a weird story to it, I mean the animation was much better, and I felt like they put a lot more effort in that than the rest of them.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go back to the Elder. I'd say that the story is the best um Star Wars story that I've seen ever. And it was only like how long was that? That was only like 20 minutes,
Less than that, I think.
and that's considered better than the entire Star Wars universe as of right now for me.
Oh, okay. Calm down.
Yes, it does. I really do believe that. Um,
I
but
I think there's a reason why I wouldn't say I go that far and agree with you that it's the best thing in Star Wars, but there's a theme going through the show that I want to talk about later that ties to that. Go ahead. That I love.
but for the rest, it just felt like copy and paste. They're just it wasn't. There was like you can say that yeah they were trying to do their own visions, but it felt like it was just regular anime. That's
Mhm.
literally what it was. There's nothing different about it. It's just the same thing you see on freaking Attack on Titan or something. So
What was your least favorite anime? And by the way, don't you say Attack on Titan is regular. Attack on Titan is
what?
awesome. What was
Wait,
your least
least
favorite
favorite.
episode? Yeah. Like
Oh,
which one like did
episode.
you like despise or like one or two that you really really didn't like and why?
Um, I think that I don't really know my. There, it seems like it's a lot of them are my least favorite. So I sort of can't pinpoint the exact one, but I can tell you one of the main ones that I didn't like. I think it was frick.
You don't even remember the name of it. It was that bad. What was the
Yeah,
story or the character?
I see. I don't even know. It's probably
Well, the first one is you got the first one, which
Okay.
is the
Chopping a Star Destroyer in
Duel.
half. Was it
what?
the
that one?
duel,
No, no, no.
the duel,
I
which
mean,
is
Duel was amazing too. I forgot it completely about that. Duel was awesome.
mhm.
The second episode, which was
That was the Tatooine mute the band.
oh
The
yeah, that one was
that was
yeah.
your least
That's
favorite.
yeah. There you go.
Okay,
But yeah,
why didn't you like that one?
overall,
Because it
oh
wasn't an action story.
it's not that. It's just the story wasn't compelling enough. I mean, they tried to focus on music and whatever. It's a good concept, but when you really try and do it, it doesn't make sense at all. And yeah, it just felt super kid friendly and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I can't enjoy something that doesn't have a sense of action to it or anything like that.
Yeah, it was
So
kind of kid friendly. That's true.
yeah, it was very
Tatooine Rhapsody.
stale.
That was the name of the episode. Tatooine Rhapsody.
Yeah, it felt very stale though. Yeah,
Hmm. Did you like the
but
animation in any of the episodes or in this episode? Like, were there any
the
episodes where it
best
looked cool, even if it wasn't a great episode?
the best animation was the first episode.
The duel.
By leagues. Yeah, the duel was had the best animation. I mean, it tried to focus on the original Japanese noir. I don't know what they call it.
It is kind
Um,
of like a film noir. It was like
Hmm.
CGI
yeah,
with like animation drawn over it to give it that look.
yeah,
Hmm.
and it had that. It was sort of. It reminded me of like original Japanese, like mainly like samurai movies and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I felt that they did it perfectly, absolutely perfectly. It was flawless. The story was awesome to some extent,
To some
but
extent.
yeah, I had like I said, a lot of these are cut and paste for me, and it really doesn't feel original.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, that's honestly my thoughts on Visions and Bad Batch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Walt, I actually kind of want to go to you because I think that it's a perfect jump off point from the duel. to see what you think about it.
Absolutely. So I'll get into the duel in a couple of seconds, but I just wanted to give my overall thoughts before we actually, started watching these things. As you know, I'm a big fan of Star Wars animation. I've always has have been, um, and with all due respect, Star Wars animation isn't perfect, and I'm looking particularly at you, Star Wars Resistance. That was not one of my favorite shows, but
Hmm.
given all of that, I went into the Bad Batch with a certain, you know, excitement to it, because we had seen Bad Batch before in the Clone Wars, and they seemed like they were interesting enough to warrant a TV series, provided that they did it the right way. Unfortunately, they didn't do it the right way.
Hmm.
At least in my opinion. Now, before I do start, I have to give props, and this is something that I just found out. D. Bradley Baker is an amazing voice actor, right?
Hmm.
And he just gets a little bit more elevated, in my opinion, knowing the fact that he is the voice of the entire Bad Batch.
Hmm.
He does all the voices for all the five characters, which in of itself is amazing because each character has its own distinct personality,
He does the clones too, doesn't he? All
and
the
he does some of the clones as
also,
well. Yes,
right?
yeah, exactly. So to be able to have the level of talent to have these distinct characters and give them their own personality, I have to bring that out and give him his props for that, because that is amazing. And he does voice one of my favorite of the Bad Batch, which is Wrecker.
Hmm.
I do like that character. But if we really look at Bad Batch, in a vacuum, I hate to say it, but Bad Batch is more Star Wars Resistance than Clone Wars, because there was no excitement for me to watch the Bad Batch, and that goes into the fact that it took us at least we watched it up until episode 7, and we just stopped.
Hmm. Okay.
And it's a 16 episode series that started in May and ended in August. And here we are in October just talking about it really for the first time. Now, scheduling did have some some effect to the fact that we're talking about Bad Batch, but you know what? It was I gather in the back of our heads, it was never compelling enough where we had to say, okay, regardless of scheduling issues and conflicts that we're having here at the podcast, we need to find a way to talk about it. And we never got to that point with Bad Batch.
Mm.
Bad Batch, um, I believe Wolfie still hasn't seen the very last episode. We kind of binged watched it
Hmm.
just because we knew this episode was coming up, which again kind of points to our level of excitement when it comes to the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch felt like it was monster of the week almost every single episode. There was no real underlying mythology or story that was pushing us to the end. And when we did get to the end, that's when they kind of crammed everything together. And quite honestly, that finale was very unsatisfying for me. I could tell you right now, we've seen it what, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and if you ask me for the specifics of what happened in that series, couldn't give it to you. Really couldn't give it to you.
Okay.
All I know is the best way I can describe Bad Batch is you've got 5 clone troopers that are different from every other clone trooper. They find another clone, and they just go on adventures, and that's it. That's Bad Batch for you in a nutshell. And so to me, given how the mythology and the story is so important to Star Wars, they completely missed the mark with Bad Batch. Not even Crosshairs could hit that target. You know.
Oh,
Boom.
bro.
Yes. In terms of visions, I was very excited, and I'm still gonna hold that excitement. It's a total 180 degree from Bad Batch because I thought Visions was brilliant. I liked it felt like the Animatrix, but in Star Wars style. You know, it's
Hmm.
this anthology where you're telling different stories. You have different directors that are giving a different perspective on it, and I love the fact that Visions goes back and looks at this in George Lucas's kind of vision, because if you know Star Wars, you know that samurais and that culture really, really inspired Star Wars.
Yeah.
You could see it in Darth Vader's costume because he has basically a typical samurai armor, right?
Hmm.
You see it
Down
in
to the
the
helmet.
way that, yeah, exactly. You see it the way the Jedi's dress, very simplistic, you know, the weapons that they use, the code of honor that the Jedi have and stuff. Everything there is really driven by the samurai Bushido code, right?
Or like
And so
as imagined by like Kurosawa and all that, right?
right, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. So I love the fact that they really, really leaned into that with Visions. Um, Granted, there are some of the stories that really didn't land as strongly as others, and I agree with Eli.
Oh,
Tatooine Rhapsody is probably my least favorite of the thing, and not to say that it was a bad episode,
Hmm.
but just in terms of how great some of the other ones were, I have to rate it down below there. You know, um, again, one of my favorites was The Elder. My probably the one that I
yes.
love the most, and this is
Hmm.
just my personal favorite because of where I I'm kind of coming from it. The Duel was amazing to me.
Hmm.
The twins was very, very anime, and I like that about it.
Hmm.
You know, it kind of embraced the Dragon Ball esque nature of
It
anime,
was
which
wild.
was, yeah, which is amazing when you think about putting it in a Jedi Sith concept, right?
It took advantage of the medium, which I enjoyed also.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, literally, they split a Star Destroyer in half. I mean, if that's not pure anime, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then you also had the more reserved episodes like The Village Bride, which kind of skewed the action to tell a really brilliant story set in the Star Wars universe. So that's why I really enjoyed Visions, because it chose its medium well, and then within that medium it really, really shined in terms of how diverse that medium of anime is, right? Because anime can be batshit crazy, and at the same time it could be very, very grounded and tell a story beautifully, and I think you had both of those things happening within the Visions series. So I really did enjoy Visions.
All right. So I actually want to take a moment and let's go to what Wolfie's reactions were to Bad Batch and to Star Wars. Let's listen in.
All right, so I am not able to be there present to record, but I do want to give my thoughts. It seems like I somehow miss every single Star Wars Geek Out podcast episode or what have you. However, anyway, so here's my take, okay? First, I'll give my impressions on Bad Batch. I was really, really eager to watch Bad Batch, and I tried to stick through it. And there's plenty of episodes that I enjoyed, but I had a lot of trouble kind of getting really attached to the show because it felt like more of the same. It was just kind of like a weekly, mission of the week show that had like a lot of repeated themes that we've already seen in The Mandalorian and whatnot, where it's, hey, here's this mysterious child with mysterious origins, and then that child somehow gets, kidnapped, and then, we gotta, rescue that child. Not that the whole show was about that, but just like it's like recycled themes and stuff, and I know that, like, Dave Filoni will, somehow connect it and make it all make sense, but it's still just it's not it's not intriguing enough to make me want to follow it week by week. And I think that it's evidenced by the fact that there is no real fanfare on social media over the end of The Bad Batch, an end which I have not seen because I still have not made time to watch the final. I've seen every episode except the final episode. It's just, for me, it's just not worth my time, it seems like, obviously I will finish it, but I made time to binge instead the other property that's the exact opposite of The Bad Batch. I call it the good batch of episodes, which is Visions. Now, obviously, I'm also I think anybody that follows the podcast and follows, my thoughts on, likes and all that stuff, my interest in anime is a big one for me. And a lot of traditional Japanese culture as well, or Asian culture in general, I'm really into. And, having, even though they were all shorts, having all this batch of episodes, each one unique within its own right, all in Japanese style anime by, Japanese studios. I was excited about it when I first heard about it and saw it, but I did not realize how good it would be until I saw the very first episode, The Duel. After I saw The Duel, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is what we're talking about? It's like, I'm sure that some of the guys might mention this, but it's like a what if, but in the Star Wars universe. It's hard for me to pick an episode that I love the most and an episode that I love the least. I love them all. I feel equally. I've rewatched the entire, the 9 episodes 3 times already, thrice. Always relish an opportunity to use the word thrice. But I will, the most notable episodes to me are, of course, The Duel, because of the impression that it made on what this is, how drastic of a departure from, Star Wars this is visually. But then also how very Star Wars it is. Cool lightsabers, geopolitical turmoil, classism, all that stuff is all in The Duel. But aside from that episode, which was obviously the very first impression that we got, my favorite episodes, I would have to say, I think my favorite episode is probably the Bride and Lop and Ocho. I would say equally tied for different reasons. Aside from that, I thought The Twins was an amazing episode. And also The Ninth Jedi, I think is probably, I think they're all equally tied. I think they're all it's impossible for me to actually choose one, but they're great for their own reasons. I thought the animation style in Lop and Ocho was, the best out of the entire, batch. Followed by The Bride. I loved the stories. Let me talk about the stories. So the one thing that I loved about the episodes and Visions is the fact that each episode created characters with such depth in such a short amount of time that I felt like the characters in every single episode, the characters within those episodes felt like they had way more substance than anything that we saw in The Bad Batch, in my opinion. And I would even go further, and I've mentioned this to the guys, to the crew, I feel like the characters created in the Visions series of episodes, in every single one of them, had more depth, had more, just so much more to them than anything we saw in the sequel trilogy. It's amazing to me how much they could put into the character development in such a short amount of time, and how much of it they can give us. Right, we're talking about 9 different Star Wars worlds, with characters fleshed out. Interestingly, in a way that it's easy to just gravitate to them and fall in love with them. And one of the reasons I loved Lop and Ocho so much is because it created a world, it created a real Star Wars universe that also had I guess, a not so happy ending. And that's okay. It left me wanting. And that's what a lot of these, and not just the whole series, but each episode left me wanting more of that episode, especially the Ninth Jedi. Because that episode felt like this was a prelude to a whole, that you can make an entire trilogy of movies based off of the Ninth Jedi. So anyway, that's where I stand. I absolutely love Visions. I absolutely did not love the Bad Batch. I like to call this the Bad Batch versus the Good Batch of episodes of Star Wars. And I really hope that we get more Visions. I really, really do. Yeah, that's my take. So hopefully I'll be able to schedule myself back on the podcast soon enough, with a little bit more regularity. But I really, really did not want to miss this. We've already pushed back the Bad Batch, and I always seem to miss anything that we do as a crew that has to do with like the Star Wars universe. So did not want to sit this one out. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the episode, and I hope you guys, enjoy my thoughts. I mean, if you don't agree with me or you do, please drop a comment. Let us know. I would love to know what you guys think of what we think. But yeah, and I'm also really interested to know what the rest of the crew thinks. We usually kind of keep everything tight-lipped. So I guess I'll find out when this airs. Anyways, back to you guys.
The comments. Wolfie's not wrong. They really.
It's really not.
Oh my God, bad. I was literally the only person who was saying we have to just finish this. We have to just finish Bad Batch.
And Wolfie still hasn't done that yet.
I did that to myself as well.
God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think AJ really was the driving force in at least this household to kind of finish Bad Batch.
Yeah.
It was just so terrible. I tried on countless occasions to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Bad Batch, what it does is that it suffers from the 16 episode, I guess, elongation, right? Because with those kind of series, you usually get like 8 to 10. So, and at that point, you're very, very taught in your storytelling, right? And it's really weird. And tell me if you agree with this, AJ. The episodes, if you take them by themselves, are not really that bad, right? But I think if you put it in the context of the entire season, because I feel like we didn't see a really bad episode of Bad Batch, right?
No.
Like
I actually
for the most,
agree. I agree.
yeah, for the most part, if you take it just by itself, it's I don't think at any point we said, "Oh, that was a terrible episode."
You know what I feel?
Well, there was one person who did.
You know what
but-
I feel?
yeah, I know.
You know what I
All
feel?
of them.
You know what the thing is for me, kind of, to jump on your point, Walt.
Mm-hmm.
If Bad Batch were something like Visions, and these were just episodes that were standalone,
Right.
it would have been entertaining, I think, if they weren't
Yes.
really necessarily trying to tie them all together into a narrative. And there's a problem with where the narrative goes and why the narrative exists for me, but I'm going to wait until I talk about my reactions to it. Go ahead, guys. What else do you think about Bad Batch and Wolfie's reactions to it?
Hold on. You guys think that individually these episodes were good?
I didn't
Not
say
great.
that.
Okay,
Not great.
okay.
But they
Not
were
bad.
Okay.
Not bad.
It's
Okay.
like for example, if I saw one episode, I wouldn't say, "Oh, I wasted my time."
But
if
you
I just
did.
but again, you're talking about in terms of the entire season.
But nobody
In the
cares about
entire
Jabba's
season.
freaking Rancor. Nobody cares about that.
I
Nobody
but I'm not
cares.
saying every episode is perfect. I'm just saying that
No.
they're not terrible episodes.
But they are. You're trying to.
I
They're
still agree
trying
with
to.
Eli on the Rancor point.
Yeah, I know.
When I
That's what I'm
saw
saying.
that, I was like, "What the heck?"
There is not. I'm not going to say every single episode is awesome or great or good, because it's not. There are episodes that are worse than
But
others.
they're not
But
doing
I'm
any.
just making the point that if you
But
just took one
say,
episode,
okay, no.
you'll be like, okay, that's
Say-
kind of cool.
Say what you want about but about each individual episode, but none of them contribute to the Star Wars universe at all.
They
Again,
all
I,
do
I'm,
actually,
I,
but
No, they don't
they
though.
but
do. But the
In
reason,
very
but let
minuscule
me wait until I
ways.
Yes,
because
there you go.
I have a
Finally.
point to make that like they really do actually, and that's actually the problem with the
Oh.
show. They contribute way too much. Go ahead. I'll make my
Too
point about this
No, no, no,
later.
much.
no.
Yes, I think
yeah.
so. Yeah, I think you'll see what I mean when I
No.
make my point later. Go ahead.
My
I want you guys
problem.
to finish this up,
Well,
right?
what AJ? What do you
Yeah.
have to say?
I, on the offhand, really don't agree. I mean,
Thank you.
maybe in one respect and one alone,
What?
and that's the why Tarkin really hates. Well, he already hated clone troopers, but
Oh, well,
his
yeah.
interaction with the Bad Batch really
Yeah.
cemented that.
Hmm.
Um, but like, although to go back with what Wolfie said, I don't know. I mean, some of the concepts in Visions were they were superb.
Hmm.
I don't know that each one of them can generate its own standalone series.
I don't think all of them are meant to. I think concepts like the Ninth Jedi
Yes,
I
that
think
okay.
that
I'll
one.
give you
definitely
that
would
one.
I was
definitely
gonna
do.
say, yeah.
And the duel is another one that, interestingly enough, out of all of the episodes, that is the one that's getting a book based on the things that happen in the duel.
That one makes
So
sense kind of as well because he's like a noir, like
mhm.
almost nihilist wanderer, like a Ronin.
No,
So he can just go and have a mission or a
and out of
challenge
all of
of the
them,
week.
Yeah.
that one just had like the most questions. It really
My
did.
favorite questions came from that one and a couple of other ones. Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, Visions. I'll agree. Also, was just superior to the Bad Batch. It did what. That's the thing. Bad Batch wasn't supposed to be that like Visions. It makes sense. They're telling different stories, but
Hmm.
Bad Batch took that one step too far. Like there were episodes that it's called the Bad Batch. They weren't even about the Bad Batch.
I know.
Yes, thank you.
I think the Bad Batch really suffers from that 16 episode format. I think if you had
No.
cut at least 5 to 6 episodes off of that, you'd probably get the same type of story, but just more tightly told.
Hold on. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go back to that individual episode. My last point. You can say that each individual episode is good, and I'll respect that. But you cannot say it contributes to the universe, mainly because each episode is just an adventure of the Bad Batch.
All right.
I don't care about their adventures.
Right. Okay. So you know what? I'll make the point here because it's getting pushed heavily. The reason why the reason why I disagree with that is because the problem I have with Bad Batch, probably the biggest problem I have with this show, is it's not a show about the Bad Batch. It's a show about Camino and what happened to Camino. To
Yeah.
me, it's about what
Yeah.
happened to Camino.
Oh, absolutely.
It's what happened to the clones. It's what happened, like Eli said, to the Rancor that nobody cared about where it came from. What happened? It's about what happened to my goodness, Ming Na Wen's character from The Mandalorian. What happened to her at this point in
Fennec
time?
Shan.
It contributes all of these things to the Star Wars universe. The problem is that they're all totally trivial and don't make a difference, except for maybe the Camino thing, finding out what happened to Camino. But I actually don't care for the most part what happened to Camino.
And
So
Camino, you could have told that within a 2 or 3 episode arc. You didn't have to
yes,
elongate it for the entire season.
or that could have been the movie. The hour and a half could have been them figuring out the whole Camino thing instead of a whole season, 16 episodes, like you
Exactly.
said, including like I mean, think about it, hour and a half movie and then 15 episodes. That's a heck of a lot to watch and a heck of a lot of story to go through. So that's why I
Mhm.
kind of disagree with that point. I think that's the weakness of the show. It's trying to contribute a million
It felt,
things to the Star Wars lore, but they're all useless.
it
And
felt more like Omega show for
Oh
me.
my God! Don't even
Yeah,
get
it
me
really did.
started on
That
that.
too. I agree with that. Yeah, it was.
And one of the biggest things, and I'm a huge fan of Dave Filoni and everything that he does, right? And this is a Dave Filoni created show. This is not a Dave Filoni directed show.
Yeah.
And the thing that really is probably the most disappointing about Bad Batch is we got that first excellent episode,
Yes.
and that gave you hope that, wow, this is going to be a really really interesting take on what the Bad Batch is. And we never got back to that. It never reached those heights ever again in any of the subsequent 15 episodes. And interestingly enough, the first episode is the only episode out of the entire season that had Dave Filoni's hands directly on that.
Playing with our hearts, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Let
So that's, I think, really one of the most disappointing things about Bad Batch, is because that first episode was so good. And and here's another thing. Doom, Caleb Doom, they introduce him in the very first episode. You never hear from him again. And I think, again, that was one of these things where it's like, okay, they're going to tie in all of the animated universe here. You've got Clone Wars in effect. You've got Caleb Doom from Star Wars Rebels. This is going to be a thing where you're tying all of these properties together, and it never happens.
honestly though,
That is just super disappointing for me.
I think what's probably just as disappointing is that in the very first episode, like, Omega is touted to be like this super huge thing. Oh, what's she gonna be? What's so special about this child? Correct me if I'm wrong. We never get any semblance of an explanation, not even a hint.
She's just a super talented Django Fett clone. That's all she is.
Like,
With bad parents.
I don't want to hate on that character, but the way that the show played out, I can't help it.
So
Like,
I'm going to give my thoughts, I think, on it here, because we kind of all ended up lumping our thoughts about Bad Batch into this area. So I want to give you my thoughts, and then AJ, I want to hear from you on what you thought about Visions and all of that as well. Very quickly, I want to mention, like, Wolfie's points about Visions. I agree that the characters have more depth and more substance than anything in the Bad Batch for the most part, and anything in the sequel trilogy for the most part, with the exception of Kylo Ren. I think Kylo Ren was definitely a character that was very well fleshed out and didn't stick the landing, but that's okay. I think he was a good character. The Visions is very Star Wars, a lot of geopolitical turmoil and classism, like you mentioned, which is, I think, a lot of what Star Wars has always been about, and
Yep.
that's even a lot of what Kurosawa's films that Star Wars is based on. A lot of that is in there as well. I know a lot of you guys loved Lop and Ocho or Lop and Och. I loved all
eh,
the episodes, and I liked all the episodes for the most part. That was my least favorite, actually, of all the episodes. But I really still enjoyed it, actually, because I really, really enjoyed Visions overall, for the most part. And I mean, yeah, I like the fact that some of the episodes left you wanting more, especially something like The Ninth Jedi, which I'll talk about a little bit more when I give my full opinion on Visions. As far as Bad Batch, I'll try to make this as concise as possible, because I have a lot of thoughts on Bad Batch, which is why I kind of pushed to include it a little bit in this week's episode, a little more. So it's on me if y'all don't care about Bad Batch, everybody that's listening to this episode. But the thing about Bad Batch is, like we've all said, there's individual episodes that are pretty good, if not great. For me, a standout episode is the episode where they kind of rescue that politician that's trying to help his planet, that ends up running away from his planet or something like that, and the Empire's trying to, like, do something to him or whatever. They're trying to take over the planet. He's trying to resist it. Because for me, that episode pulls off something that Star Wars doesn't often pull off, at least more recently. This is why Star Wars is a weakness to me in some things like the sequel trilogy and, like, in the Bad Batch overall. It pulls off great epic moments, right? Star Wars is all about big epic stuff that's great and awesome. It pulls off, like, kind of good medium moments too, right? Like, where there's, like, almost not quite as big and as epic, but, like, maybe these big moments where characters unite before a big battle, right? These cool speeches that are, like, not totally up there in terms of the crescendo of excitement, right? But Star Wars sometimes suffers in small moments, in like moments like, oh, I hate sand, the infamous like stupidity and inanity of like comments like that, where it's somebody trying to write something where characters connect on conversations that don't necessarily have to do with the bigger Star Wars universe, but that still tell you about the characters. Okay, so that episode, I love it because you have that issue in the earlier part of the episode where I think oh my goodness, it's not Tech, it's not Wrecker, it's not Omega, it's not Crosshair, it's what's the other character's name?
Hunter.
Hunter. No, Tech, Wrecker, Omega, Cross. No, the other Bad Batch
Echo?
character. Echo. Thank you. Echo.
Echo. Okay.
Echo is, see, he's almost a forgotten character, but he's my favorite character in this episode because if you guys remember earlier in the episode, he's all about like not working with anybody on the other side of the conflict previously. I think, you know, he's very wary about working with politicians and all this stuff. And then without even talking about it in the episode, really, he comes around and he starts to respect this politician because he just sees through the character's actions that he's really a good man and he's trying to help people. And they don't even talk about it, like I said, but they have that mutual moment of respect at the end of the episode. And I really like that. And it was missing so much of that in most of the other episodes, but the potential was there, which is why I was a little sad that they didn't do better with it. I agree with everyone that the episodes, a lot of them were kind of filler, kind of monster of the week. The other thing, this is tied to the fact of like Wrecker, who's one of all, I think he's one of my favorite characters too, right? I enjoyed Wrecker a lot. And that relationship between him and Omega was the only part
Exactly.
that I liked about Omega. I didn't like her relationship with any of the other characters. Her relationship with Hunter was pushed on you and it sucked. You know, Hunter was not the best character to have her connect with. Wrecker was. And for me, that presented another opportunity that they hinted at and didn't lean into, which would have been a nice way to pay off on their small moments, right? They have a lot of moments where they're just playing games or being silly, but it tells you about them. And I like
Yes,
that,
exactly.
right?
It's telling a story
It's,
every time they're interacting with each other.
yeah, they have their game that they love to play together. Like those are moments that actually worked for me. And that's why I liked Wrecker. I didn't like Omega as much because she became a plot device other than when she was with Wrecker. And to me, there was that hint that Wrecker was going to turn bad for a bit. And I thought that
Yes.
was a missed opportunity to see Wrecker kind of turn like into a Hulk character and work against them, maybe with Crosshair for a few episodes. I thought would have been really cool and like paid off that stuff between him and Omega. But we never got to see that. We got to see it for like one episode and he was having those headaches and concussions and then it was over really quickly.
If you were going to do something like that, I suggest that should have been toward the end of the season
Sure.
where you had Crosshair not quite questioning what his role is in everything, but there was that slight tinge where it's like, you know what, maybe I miss these guys so much I need to go back with them because I see how the Empire is betraying him. And having Wrecker there, Wrecker for me felt like the most genuine character out of all of them because he was basically just his own person. He did things his own way. And like you said, having Wrecker going with Crosshair, there's such a distinct difference between personality here, right?
And one of them does it by
Wrecker,
choice, and one of them does it
right?
by control,
Exactly.
which I thought would have been a cool thing to talk about too.
But you would have to have done that at the very end,
Yeah.
because you would have Wrecker kind of trying to pull Crosshair back, and he is the perfect guy to do it.
Yeah, because he's just a lovable oaf. It's kind of like, come
Exactly.
on, we've been together for our entire lives.
Hunter is too stick up the butt to do it.
Yeah.
Tech and Echo, I'm sorry, they're not management material and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
If there was one person that could bring Crosshair over, it would have been Wrecker. And like you said, missed opportunity. I gather the reason they didn't do it is because they didn't want to have two of the Bad Batch kind of fall by the wayside in the same manner.
Mhm.
But
it wouldn't have been the
if you
same manner though if you think about it, because
No,
it was
I know, but
Crosshair's choice.
right, but at the same time, it's still both of them leaning towards the Empire for various reasons. in the middle of the season, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. But the way that Bad Batch ended, you could have started that kind of fall within the last 3 episodes, and then circled back and brought him back into the fold,
or even
with
have
him
it
trying to
leading
bring
into season 2
Crosshair
as a
You know,
conflict. There is supposed to be a season 2, isn't there?
I can't believe we're talking about a season 2, because this is probably the most
No.
unanticipated season 2 of a Star Wars property that I've ever had.
Yeah.
You know,
All right.
I honestly, okay,
What's up? What's up,
okay,
Eli?
okay. I'm
Give
just
your
gonna make this
thoughts,
point
and then I want to see
This
what
be-
AJ
real
thought
quick,
about
real quick.
Visions.
yeah, because this is becoming a Bad Batch bashing.
Good.
episode.
Let's
It
destroy
really
this.
has. I know we were supposed to talk about Visions, and I think this will be the last thing we
Okay,
talk about
yeah.
Bad Batch, right?
Honestly, I hated Wrecker all out.
Really?
He was the worst
What?
character out of
No,
all of
he
them.
wasn't. No.
What's his name?
I
Crosshair.
I
Well, hold on.
understand at first why you felt that way, because he seemed like he
No.
was going to be a silly caricature, but he had more depth in his relationship with
no.
Omega
did.
as
No,
the show went on,
Let me
and the
finish
other
my point.
characters. He
Let
was
me-
the
let me
only
fin-
one that connected with anybody on that show, pretty much.
Let me finish my point. Though.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
But you have Crosshair. Crosshair felt like the best character in this.
He was a
in the
pretty
show.
good
Because he
character.
was the
Because
bad
he was
guy.
interesting.
He had that
Especially
sense
with
of
the
conflict. But
especially with that
Yeah.
revelation where he said he took out the chip.
yeah,
That
the
was
end,
super
like,
interesting.
I
what
agree
the
he was a
hell,
good
bro?
character. I liked his conflicts
Miss-
with some of the stormtroopers earlier on as well, like the clones versus whether they should use normal human stormtroopers, and
Yeah.
that Tarkin thing. That was pretty cool. So I agree.
But missed opportunity. But anyway, I want to
Mhm.
go back to Wrecker again. Basically, the reason why I didn't like Wrecker so much is because he felt like he didn't have any emotions. That was just it. It felt like so forced. It felt like he was a robot trying to connect with other people. He felt so childish to me that there was no sense of it. It wasn't. He didn't even have a conscience really to me, and that's why I didn't like Wrecker. I felt that Hunter, even though it was also forced on him. I mean, they were all robots, really.
Mhm.
Hunter had that level of like, it was fine that you could, yeah, he had the stick up the butt, but like he didn't. It was like he was trying his best to connect with Omega when he knew in actuality that there was no way he could. He wasn't gonna be a good enough parent
Mhm.
for Omega, and that's what made Hunter better than Wrecker for me, because Wrecker was just he was just
Well,
there. It was just like a body with no soul.
as far as Hunter, I sort of agree with you because it was working for the first couple of times they did it, but when they did it like 12 times after every
Yeah,
conflict, after every episode, he was having trouble connecting with her again. Then it was just like, okay, this is ridiculous at this
It
point.
becomes stale.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so did Wrecker for me, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand. AJ, can you give us your thoughts on Visions now, please? Let's move on to something that
Yes,
people like a little bit
please.
more.
Let's
Or at least
talk
that we liked a little bit
Visions.
more.
So I'm gonna go episode by episode.
hmm
The duel had a very strong start, very interesting, left you with a lot of questions, kind of irritating.
In a good way.
In a good way. I still don't like having to ask questions.
irritating
I
doesn't-
really don't.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Tatooine Rhapsody. The only takeaway from me for this is that I can tease Gabe that Boba Fett was a schmuck again.
Yes. Yes.
Yo, but he like went full like Zemo at the end and started nodding his head to the music. Started
Yeah.
like doing some
Oh,
dance
no.
moves. Come on, that was awesome.
The
Listen.
Boba Fett cut.
Yes.
Yeah, we need an hour of that. No,
Boba Fett and Chibi style is very, very interesting. I'll just put it that way.
yeah. For a while, I was like, "Is that Boba Fett as a kid?" And then
Yeah,
I
it
saw
was like, is
everybody
that-
was small.
Baby Boba Fett.
Yeah.
It's weird, but okay.
All right. What else, AJ?
All right, and that's for that one.
Mhm.
The twins. Oh, I'm sorry, but I
Yes.
just couldn't.
Thank you.
Really?
Thank you. Oh my god.
There is a limit that you can take with the crazy for me.
Mhm.
Oh, I enjoyed the crazy.
Me too.
I thought it was
No.
Breathing
different.
in space was not. No.
It's like Goku breathed on this.
Yes.
Disgusting.
Oh my god.
But Leia did it.
She
that
was
a-
holding her breath. She
and that-
wasn't out there for
Oh
like
my-
countless hours.
And oh my god, that was the low point of that movie. Jesus.
Like with the Leia, I can kind of reconcile it. She's holding her breath, but they're full on breathing, going, I'm talking. You have to stop. Da, 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 da. I can't with that. I just can't.
Force. All I have to say is this, and I'm gonna use Aquaman.
No force bubble. No.
Force air bubbles.
No.
Stop it.
No.
It was all in
No,
You
there.
didn't even see it.
They were
You didn't even
communicating
see it.
mentally.
If you could see it, then fine. But I could not see
No,
any
I know. I'm
form
just
of
teasing.
force
I'm
bubble.
just teasing.
No.
I'm just teasing.
No.
But that leans to the whole craziness of the
No.
episode.
I don't.
You know,
Like you're introducing the concept of power levels at that point. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody.
Well, you kind of already have that, but whatever.
Okay, but still.
Uh,
Still.
the one cool thing I will say about that episode was
Mhm.
they had some very interesting visuals.
Okay.
That's some very interesting
Yeah.
visuals, especially
Yeah.
as much as I also didn't like how he miraculously
Yes.
stayed on the X-wing
Yes.
while going at hyperspeed.
yes. That wasn't.
That was a cool that was well animated, but like that
Crazy.
was just way too over the top for me.
Oh, the freaking lightsaber destroying the. Oh my god.
That like the lightsaber extends to whatever length I want it to be.
That is so.
It was
stupid.
still a little too much for me. I'm sorry.
And if I can interject, one of the things that Visions does really really well is change the concept of lightsabers and what we know about it.
The umbrella
Yeah, I'll give-
lightsaber.
The one thing about it.
There are very very interesting things that they do with the concept of the lightsaber that I don't think I would have ever imagined prior to this series.
The one good thing about Visions, I'll give you that.
The umbrella lightsaber.
Oh, that was
Yes,
disgusting.
that was
Oh,
amazing.
man.
Okay.
General Grievous would be proud.
He wouldn't.
Yes, he would.
He would be disgusted.
No, you know what he'd say? He'd say, "Another fine addition to my collection."
Oh, you take it. Yeah, of course he would. Anyway.
Next up is the Village Bride. This one actually fell flat for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I get it was trying to go for the whole nature vibe, but towards the end it was like, oh, okay, so they did it. Cool.
That episode gave me a very Studio Ghibli vibe to it. You know,
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
sense that they deal with nature and how it affects characters and things of that nature.
Very often
Nature.
they do. Hmm.
Nature.
Okay.
Nature.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one, I don't know. It was okay, but it was still a little flat to me. The Ninth Jedi. Now that one, I greatly appreciated the swerves in that one. That one was pretty good. The fighting, and they brought back the color change. Where
in a
based on
very-
it was based on your current disposition. It wasn't like, okay, so I got my kyber crystal, boom, oh, it's green. This reflects, but
and
it
again,
actually
yeah.
changes as you fight and whatnot.
And again,
Great plot
one of the
device too.
things one of the things that I appreciate the way that they've changed how the lightsaber works in some of these things, because you're right, it's not usually when we talk about lightsabers, especially when we talk about Sith, right? The whole thing about the reason why it's red is because they put in so much anger and things into the kyber crystal that it actually bleeds red, right? That's what we've always been taught, and now this episode kind of changes that on its head, because now it's like it's the lightsaber becomes essentially a mood ring.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
I really, really enjoyed that twist. That is literally
I did too.
my favorite twist since Darth Vader as like Anakin Skywalker, and since the twists in the KOTOR video games. I think this is the best twist in Star Wars besides those two, at least in the Star Wars that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I loved it.
Yeah. Toby, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of, well, obviously he wasn't a normal little robot, but that became woefully apparent the more he started to use the force. It's like, okay, so he might be kind of human, and I kind of like how there was like those subtle undertones, like, well, obviously the guy was armless, that you kind of got an idea of how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But then, like, the more you saw Toby fight, I'm not gonna call it TOB1. No, it's Toby.
It's Toby. Yeah.
I like the way they kind of told the story through the fight, and that's something you get a lot with Visions, and that's what makes it really good. You get the nitty gritty through the fight.
It's interesting how this is Star Wars version of the Pinocchio tale, right?
Mhm.
It
No.
actually is.
It's like I was watching it and I was like, okay, that's Geppetto, that's
Well,
it was really cool how they did that though.
it's
It was
kind
like a
of
retelling of Pinocchio
it's like
I
a
in the
kind of
Star
feel
double
Wars.
like,
reference because it's like um Astro Boy by way of Pinocchio.
Yeah, that's
oh
true too. That's
yes,
true too.
That's kind of like because Astro Boy is like a little bit like Pinocchio in terms of its like storytelling, not exactly
Yep.
its origins.
So they took the two and blended it together to good effect.
you ask me though, they did that intentionally. They're like, oh, so Star Wars owns Disney now. Why don't we add this little thing in and
Yeah,
make it a whole little joke?
Maybe.
I can see that. Hmm.
Now, my favorite episode, The Elder.
Oh,
Yes.
This was just absolutely great, like I thought it would be.
I think Wolfie had
Um,
said that the duel is automatically in the lightsaber duel in the duel is automatically in
Hmm.
one of the top lightsaber fights of all time. I think this one is too. This fight, even though it's super
yes,
simple, what an outcome.
But it again it leans very much into the traditional samurai, the older films, because a lot of in traditional samurai fighting, a lot of these fights are very very short.
Hmm.
You know, that I mean you're fighting with a blade that can end your life in one shot. So I thought it was. You know what this reminded me of? The second fight between Maul and Obi-Wan.
Hmm.
there have actually been edits on
Really?
Instagram.
Okay, there you go. See, and the thing about it, that Obi-Wan Maul fight, there was something more than just the actual action, because there was that underlying emotional weight to it. And I feel in Elder, even though we didn't get to know the characters as well as those other characters, because we've had multiple seasons of them, we still felt that emotional weight there. And again, the Elder kind of reinforces the relationship between Master and Padawan, right?
Yeah. The one thing I will
You
say
like the old guy?
was yes.
yo.
The one thing I will say is a little bit odd for me was that when you came down to the killing blow and he was just kind of like, oh, he's focusing everything on the force lightning. I'll just go, nope. It just
Mhm.
kind of shifted and that's it. I don't know. I guess for me, the lightning wouldn't have just stayed that small. Like it just stayed right where his lightsaber was. It didn't like continue coursing on, but that could also be just how skilled he was with the force. Like I can control exactly how far it goes and how strong it
It
is.
was
Mhm.
like Vegeta, Gohan, and Cell. It was like that moment,
Yeah,
basically. That's essentially what it was,
for
right? He just
sure.
distracted like Vegeta, the Padawan, through the lightsaber to distract Cell, the
Basically.
Elder, and then the Jedi Master took advantage and finished him off.
Mhm.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So that one was pretty good. I would love to see more on that. Cause it looked like he was a rogue Sith. He was like, Sith, I'm not part of that. I'm not running with them. I'm my own
I ain't
thing.
got time for that.
It's like one of the OG Siths, bro.
Hmm.
Oh man.
Okay.
Then we have Lop and Ocho. Um, okay. Um, I get. Yeah, it was okay for an episode. You certainly had the emotional drivers there. Like you guys said, the whole geopolitical. should we or should we not? Because this episode really centered around should we or should we not let the Empire run our state? The daughter said no. The dad's oh wait no, the dad said no. The daughter said
Yeah.
yes. Lop, who's the adopted daughter, was like, "Stop fighting."
Yeah, that was kind of.
But not for nothing. That ending wasn't necessarily happy either. Because if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, she kills her own father, right?
Mm,
Or no,
No,
he got
no.
blinded.
yeah, he got blinded. That was
Yes,
freaking.
he's like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
lost the sight of the other eye."
Mm.
It's just like I
Oh
was like,
dang!
yeah, I casually lost an eye.
Darn it!
Why was
Oh well.
why was the sister why was the sister screaming all the time? Because that's the only thing I remember. She was just going like, and that's all I heard.
The dark side, yo.
I know, but still, no.
Yeah, that one wasn't the best Dark Side at Work. I think the best Dark Side at Work was the very last episode, which I actually really enjoyed also.
Mhm.
That was Akakiri.
Mhm.
Akakiri.
Akakiri.
That was the
yes.
closest thing we got to the Emperor on this show.
Oh,
Yeah, where he accidentally kills the person he's trying to help, and then the general is like, "Hey, so I can help you. Just join me, and it'll be all good."
that was such a good episode.
And he was like, "I know I shouldn't. It's not the Jedi way out. Screw it."
Oh man.
Hey, what did you think about Visions and the time periods that each of these episodes reflected? Because I thought that was pretty interesting how they jumped around within the timeline of Star Wars.
Millennia.
That was
By millennia in
and
many cases.
Yes, exactly.
The Ninth Jedi is well after the sequels. That's when it's set.
And then you have I believe, which one is it? The there's one that takes place way before the
That's the
prequels,
duel.
You know.
The Duel does, I think.
No, the duel does not.
No,
Believe it or
no.
not,
I'm sorry.
I thought you
Duel-
said it does.
no, the duel takes place in
The-
between Empire and Return of the Jedi, right around where the Mandalorian is kind of in. So
I think the Elder does.
What?
yeah,
The Elder is
the
one.
Elder is the one.
Is one
that-
that's set back in time,
Mhm.
Ooh,
and
that is
the
cool.
the twins is somewhere weird in the timeline. I can't. I think it's between.
No,
No,
that's
that's right
definitely
after.
during like the.
That's right after the
sequel.
sequel trilogy. That's
Yes.
what
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where that one fits in the timeline.
The Ninth
It also
Jedi,
makes
right
sense,
after
too.
Rise of Skywalker.
No, the Ninth Jedi is well after Rise of Skywalker. It's millennia after Rise of Skywalker, according to the creator. It's like
Yeah. It's like way past that. You know,
Oh, yeah.
after the
I
rise.
mean,
after
hey, at least
the
it's
end of what we know is
Oh.
Star Wars. You
Mhm.
know, the Village Bride. It's probably just before the prequel trilogy, because they do mention separatists, which
mhm.
we all know the separatists become the Rebel Alliance.
Mhm.
But that doesn't make sense though, because weren't they talking about the battle droids being decommissioned?
I don't know. It's
That's how they got their
in and
hands on
around
the
that
battle
time.
droids. So
So
that would, in my mind, be after Revenge of the Sith.
That's probably
Maybe.
you're probably right then. Okay.
yeah, it's in that prequel era time frame.
I think that the timeline, jumping around in the timelines,
It's
without sounding
interesting.
like Kang, it presents the best opportunity to see more of these in a season 2, to see more of these specific stories again, like more of the duel, the Ronin in animated form, not just in comic form, and some of the other stuff too. Maybe Ninth Jedi, which I would love to see.
I would love to see the Ronin, and this is just my guilty pleasure here. I would love to see the Ronin kind of show up in the Mandalorian. I think that would be completely awesome, especially in the way that the Mandalorian kind of sets itself, where he's kind of roaming the universe. Well, at least beforehand, right? With Grogu.
Mhm.
Well,
I
actually-
think I don't know what the Mandalorian season 3 is gonna be, because that's Grogu's now kind of out of the picture in a sense, right? But
We'll see.
I
We don't know.
think that is the perfect opportunity to recapture his identity as a bounty hunter proper.
You no longer have the right to say that the universe is small. You do not have the right.
No, but
Hey
see,
guys,
the
it's
thing
not
is,
about the Mandalorian.
right, but see, the thing is, this is set around that time, and he is a wandering Jedi, right? He's going and that's kind of his thing. And again, you're right, but like I said, this is my guilty pleasure because I love this character so much, and I want to see more of this character. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, please bring him into live action, just because he's super awesome, and
So,
I find
like,
him super interesting.
just again, this is a very, very short digression. This would actually be perfect for refocusing the Mandalorian on what the show was originally supposed to be. A bounty hunter going around bounty hunting the galaxy. What better bounty for him to pick off of first than meeting this guy?
Going after the Ronin. Oh my gosh.
No. I'm starting to think we have different ideas on where the Star Wars universe should go.
Let me ask one more question, and then I'll leave it to you guys. But this has kind of been sticking in my mind. We're looking at two different properties and how well one did against the other, and one of the defining differences between the two is one of them was dropped all at the same time, and that would being Vision. They dropped all 9 episodes at once, as opposed to the Bad Batch, which was kind of like you had to wait every Friday for a new episode. Do you think that might have played in any way, shape, or form on kind of the negativity with the Bad Batch? Because we're in that case, we're kind of waiting for the next episode to drop. So, you know, it's there's that anticipation, right? That the next episode is going to be better, that the next episode is going to finally take us into the story that we're all waiting for. Whereas Visions was kind of like, okay, here's everything, guys. Consume it the way you want. Have fun.
I honestly think that for the Bad Batch, it had the opposite effect. The more you waited, the more you didn't care about it. At least for
Well,
me.
but that's what I'm saying. Is did the weekly thing hurt it because we kept on waiting for this thing to happen? And you saw what happened with us after the seventh
Oh
or eighth
well,
episode. We kind of stopped caring, right?
yeah. You know what?
Mhm.
Yeah. I felt that it definitely did hurt it, but I felt that they should have released Visions on a weekly thing because honestly, it didn't feel right for just to put out everything so that you can binge watch it because it felt like I don't know, it was taking up time, right? It was taking away time from me. So if you did it bi-weekly, that way you have more of that anticipation for the next episode, and it's much better for Visions instead of
I
Bad
mean, the
Batch.
only reason I disagree is because it's not like these are feature length episodes. These are like 10, barely 15 minutes. I don't think that would have worked for Visions, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's not gonna work. And it ended up taking away from the buzz about Visions, that it wasn't a weekly thing. But you're right; it would have been harder to do that. Maybe they could have released 2 episodes every week, but
Yeah,
that's like,
maybe that.
that's not that many episodes either. And then the last episode would be like an odd one out, so it would be tough to kind of work that out. But like
True.
Bad Batch had a little bit more buzz and still has a little bit more buzz actually in the Twitter sphere and online. If you hashtag it, it's
Was
about
that
4 times
Which
more
is
possible?
engagement.
which is a shame, right?
Yeah.
Was this
But it's
possible?
also like the
Because
crossover between anime fans and Star Wars fans. That's not always a thing. And I know a few people who are not interested in Star Wars Visions who are huge Star Wars fans because it's anime. They're like, I don't really care for anime, so I'm not going to watch it. So that's a big part of
No,
it as well, I think.
I felt okay. I know I'm jumping in a lot here, but I felt that with Star Wars Visions, it was too anime for me. It was honestly when you hear the word visions, I thought it would be multiple visions, not just one vision, which would be anime all the time. Anime.
You set your bar
No, but
way too
well,
if
high.
if you're
but
hearing visions,
Visions.
it has to be different ideas. It's not all the same thing.
But
Everything
I
was the
think it
same.
is. I think it is because you had different stories told,
No.
different perspectives, different.
But
Let me
it's
jump
know,
in.
like
Let me jump in with
different
my
it
anime
was
opinion.
all
style.
Yeah,
anime.
let me jump
None
in
of
with my
them were
opinions about
original.
Visions so I can debunk everything that you just said. That's absolutely not true. All the stories are totally different. You got a story
I agree with
about
that.
a band. You got a story about that's like Avatar. You got a story that's about someone falling to the dark side because of love. You got a story about a freaking a rabbit and her
Say what
family
you want.
relations. You got a story about you have a story about a Jedi in that like y'all said is a Sith gray Jedi. He's like, I'm done with all this Sith stuff. I don't care about that. I only care about my own set of morals. So, and that's one of the things that I love about this show. There are a number of gray Jedi. The Ronin is another good example too. He's a gray Jedi. He seems like he
Yep.
was a Sith to begin
He
with,
actually seems more like a dark Jedi, which is an actual thing, by the
but he
way.
does good thing. Well, if that's I'm not sure what that is, but if that's the case, then yeah, okay. So you have another different story there as well, and you have Toby, which is Astro Boy, but with a Star Wars character, something we've never seen, which is an android using the Force. That's totally different from anything we've ever seen in Star Wars.
No,
And then
but hold on,
whether
hold
you
on.
liked it or not, hold on, y'all got plenty of time to speak. I got about less than 10 minutes to give my opinions on this, so you got to let me finish this. The twins is whether you liked it or not is the most ridiculously different story you've ever seen in Star Wars
Yes.
because like you
It
said
is.
they fly through a star destroyer with a super extended lightsaber at light speed and survive. Both of them do. The one that gets hit by that lightsaber and the one that deals the blow and the star destroyer gets cut in half. So I don't believe that's a weakness. If you didn't like Visions on its own, if you didn't like the stories, that's one thing. Having the same story over and over again is not true at all, in my opinion. That's
But
not
I
true at all.
felt that it was so anime that it took away from the
It's
difference.
anime. Of course it's going to be anime. Like, that's
No.
kind of not a point, in my opinion, because it was anime. It was supposed to be like anime. And to me, that was the point, which is why I disagree with everybody that doesn't like the twins. I love that episode. I don't care that it messed with the
It's
Star Wars canon.
completely
I thought
bonkers.
it was fun, and I wanted to have
Yeah.
fun watching this because that's why I watch anime. It's fun, it's crazy, it's wild. It tells stories that no other medium tells, which is why to me that's also kind of debunks the point that there's not varied stories here. It's anime. Anime always likes to tell all kinds of weird, crazy stories. As far as the episodes, literally my favorites are the odd numbered episodes. Kind of. I love the duel. I thought the duel was awesome and amazing. It was a great way to start the whole thing. It was a great way to set the stage because, like Walt said, it was like totally the essence of George Lucas's Star Wars, like what his
Yes.
influences were. So, like whoever created that saw that and was like, "All right, this is Star Wars according to George Lucas and according to me." I thought Tatooine Rhapsody was a lot of fun too. It wasn't my favorite, but like it was fun. I liked seeing the chibi versions of all these characters. It was silly. It was goofy. It wasn't gonna be like my action go to or anything like that. But the story wasn't bad. It was interesting in how it told something that we've all said we wanted to see more of. Stories that aren't just about Jedi. This wasn't a story about Jedi. It did pull in characters and make the universe small, which is our other complaint. But I'll allow it in this one, kind of. Like I already said, I love the twins. I love it. It's over the top. It's nuts. That's like when I saw that, I was like, okay. The first episode was awesome. The second episode was fun. The third episode solidified for me that I was going to have a good time with Visions. The Village Bride was fun also. It was okay. It wasn't one of my favorites necessarily, but I really, really liked it. Um, I'll say this much. Like I said, the Ninth Jedi, I think we've all said this, actually not like I said, but we've all made this point. The Ninth Jedi is it's so awesome in how it creates a possibility for like a whole new trilogy, a whole new series. To me, the possibilities are endless from the Ninth Jedi. I love everything about it. I love all the characters in it. I love the twist. I like the lightsaber fight that they have. I just thought like the way that it set up a possible future for Star Wars beyond what we've seen before, but also again having that similarity to stories that we've seen from Star Wars before. So
It's
like I'll
kind of
put it
like
this
they
way.
were storyboarding.
I'll put it this way. The Ninth Jedi is a better Force Awakens than The Force Awakens. it harkens back to Star Wars in a way that makes Star Wars fans, at least me, feel really good about, like, oh, here's going to be another cool story about Jedi versus Sith that builds and affects the whole universe. But it's not about Palpatine. It's not about the Skywalker family. It's not about the Death Star. So, like, to me, it was like, this would have been a way to start a new trilogy in a really amazing way. So I love The Ninth Jedi. It's my favorite episode, even though a few other episodes are like 1A for me, including the duel, which I already spoke about, and Twins. Toby, again, was a fun episode. It's not my favorite, but like, I thought it was a cute episode. It had fun little vibes that tied it to Pinocchio, like we all said. So that was kind of cool. The Elder, also one of my favorite episodes. I think we kind of all agree on that. I thought that was a cool lightsaber battle. Really, really, again, reflected the George Lucas sensibility of Star Wars, the Wandering Ronins. And again, I love I think you called it a Dark Jedi, AJ. Whatever that is in the Star Wars canon. You'll have to probably tell me that offline.
Well, not the canon, but it's one of those things. But go on.
Okay. I love the voice acting. That's my favorite English dub, by the way, because I watched it in Japanese and English. And David Harbour as the Jedi was really, really good. And the character the actor who played the Elder, who I can't recall who it was, but it was an amazing performance as well. So dark and menacing and evil, but like kind of like the Joker. He was like the Joker of Star Wars because he was all about chaos, right? Lop and Och, again, I disagreed. This was like my least favorite episode, but I still liked it. I still liked it a lot. I love the family conflict. I love the conflict between the daughter and the father. And I think the father was actually my favorite character. I thought he was really, really great. And like the way that he interacted with everyone was interesting. His code of honor was really, really cool. And Akariri, it fell by the wayside for me almost as the last one, but I think that was kind of like I wanted more. But the more I think about it, the more I love that episode as well. And AJ made a lot of great points about how good Akariri was as an episode and like how it ended up being like so close to a lot of other Star Wars stories, but again, like reimagining it in a way that's really cool and a little different, like the Ninth Jedi reimagined all that great stuff from Star Wars. So like, yeah, for me, like that's like kind of how I felt. I mean, I love Visions. I love every episode of Visions.
I agree.
It was fantastic from start to finish. Like,
That was okay.
Before we wrap up, I just wanna put this out there.
mhm.
This Visions here is proof positive that not everything has to be about the Skywalker saga.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
100%.
For sure.
100%. That's exactly what I think I loved about it. Very, very
Yep.
much. So yeah, that's our take on the Bad Batch versus Visions with a little bit of Halo Infinite sprinkled in there at the beginning. We want to thank y'all once again for joining us for the Get Geek podcast. We had another fun episode. I think we all kind of like Visions more than Bad Batch, right? I think that's the consensus. So tell us what y'all think about that. Slide into our DMs. Let us know what you thought about this episode. Let us know what you thought about the Bad Batch, what you thought about Visions. Let us know if you have any ideas for future episodes. We would love to hear from you. And recall, once again, that the best way to support your favorite podcast crew is to like, rate, share, subscribe, review us on Apple Podcasts. Check us out on your favorite social media platforms and comment on our stuff. You can check us out at Get Geek Podcast wherever you social media. So, yeah, we had a fun episode. Check out Star Wars Visions, y'all. It's really, really fun, especially if you like anime. Even if you don't like anime, I think you'll like Star Wars Visions. I think that's the crew consensus overall. And yeah, indeed. Well, I mean, it's better than Bad Batch. Come on, Eli.
I'll give you that.
All right. So we can all agree on that, and I think we can all agree on one more thing. There's nothing left to say this week. Maybe there's a lot more to say, but the last thing I'll say is stay geeky, my friends.